Perfect. All right. So, for those that missed it, the only question asked is how she got into appraising, and she told us a great story. You'll have to follow up with me for that. Anyhow, so Shannon, what do you call your company?
Reliable appraisal service.
Reliable. That's great. And how long have you been in business for yourself?
For 18 years.
Nice. Oh man. So I met you when you were at Love. So we really have known each other for a long time. That's
Yes, a
that's
long time.
awesome. So and now you
Mhm.
have like three or four people out appraising under you, correct?
I have five.
Five. Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So to be an appraiser, can you just take like a weekend course and next thing you know, you're out appraising? What does it take to become an appraiser? Are there any qualifications?
That's
I
that's
know it's really hard, but
a
I want people to know that like because I think sometimes we take for granted other parts of the industry that we need to make it work and the true professionalism that goes into it and the qualifications that people have. And so we have to work in unison. Really, the appraisers are there to keep everybody honest. They're a very important part of the process. And so it's important for us to know that you don't just get a certificate. Like to be an appraiser, it takes a lot more to be an appraiser than a lot of the parts of this industry. So, without going on a long diatribe, but can you just tell us some of the minimum requirements to become an appraiser?
Sure. You have to be an apprentice for 2 years minimum. You have to do 2,000 hours under the in the apprenticeship program. I had to do at the time. It's changed a little bit now. You have to actually have a license to be a trainee. So as you're working as an apprentice, you need to have this license. Back when I got licensed, I didn't have to have that trainee's license, but you have to go through so many courses. There's probably about 8 different courses that you have to take. I took mine at the Bellevue um, College, and so I did a fundamentals in real estate, and then probably the class hours were close to about 600 hours. It's a lot. So now you have to have a college degree to be able to be a certified appraiser, or you have to work with your license as a licensed appraiser. So there's a couple of different levels of licensed appraisers. The first is a licensed appraiser, and you can only do up to $1 million as far as the appraisal goes. So it's not ideal because everything is over $1 million now. So the next one is the certified, and the certified you have to have a degree, and or you have to work under somebody for another couple of years, for another 2 years as a licensed appraiser, and then you can skip the degree part. It's a lot.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot. That's the thing, I just like to just debunk any myths that are out there because every job in our industry is equally important, but like the pressure on an appraiser is huge, and what it takes to become appraiser is huge. I mean, we cry about taking 90 clock hours. It used to be 60, now it's 90, and so just to get our license to operate, and so really they kind of keep us in balance, and so they're
Mhm.
very important. I know that oftentimes we want to know how can we help an appraiser, like if we are representing a buyer or if it's our listing, our agents, is there ways that we can be helpful, or is it best if we just leave you completely alone? I know there was a lot of changes that happened after the crash. Yeah. So is there any best
Mhm.
practices?
Well, if I was just to be completely honest with you, we love to just be able to go in, and I have my set motions that I go through when I go to appraise a house. When I go on an inspection, I love to just be able to walk in, and I like to not be followed around or guided. I pretty well, it distracts me from, sometimes I'll forget a photo if I get talking to a real estate agent. So it's nice to just be left alone. I do appreciate comps. Sometimes, an appraiser or an agent will provide comps and just leave them on the table. That's nice. I can't just use those and just like go, oh, good. Thank you for running, thanks for doing my job. That's not doing my job, believe me. Because most of the times when somebody leaves me comps on the table, they don't bracket the way I do, and I have mandatory bracketing that I need to do, like let's say above grade and below grade bedroom count and bathroom count and fireplace count and garage count, and there's all these different aspects that I need to look at. And sometimes, you know, the agents are great though. If they know what they're doing and they can bracket above and below and square footage and lot size, and like, thank you, that would be great. But I would always I'm going to rerun the comps anyway, but it's nice. So basically, make sure the CO meters are there, because we're going to ask if it's if the water heater is double strapped or not. You know, those are the things that, you know, most of the time are mandatory. And we like to not be surprised. If we're going to make an appointment with you, most of my team has a super key, so we can just get into a property. So that's not a problem. But if we make an appointment, it'd be great if you let us know ahead of time if there's something we need to know, like, is there an outbuilding that nobody told us about, or, you know, just something really weird and bizarre. We'd like to know about it.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I know you had mentioned you sent over a report. I didn't see that. Did you email it to me?
I did. I replied to your email, the last one that you sent me.
I don't know. Huh.
It's a PDF. It's a PDF file of a report.
Yeah.
So, and then after we do the report, I think, would that be okay time to ask some questions? Because I don't want to get in the way of that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I did not get this report. I don't know. Is it possible to resend, or is that kind of complicated?
No, I'll do it right now. I can do that while I'm,
Yeah.
do it.
And then, I as I told you, we were going to kind of keep it informal. I told them, you're not a presenter. You're a friend of mine doing this as a courtesy. So if they had some questions to ask that we could ask. So I know as we go through the report, there'll be some good questions to ask. But I love that, I learned the hard way, as I do most things in life, that calling an appraiser and giving them my opinion does never work out well. So to stay out of their way. And one thing I have done in a market, if the property is a little bit difficult, is I will, like you said, leave the comps, but I'll let you know and say, hey, if they're helpful, great. If not, no big deal. But yeah.
We appreciate that. And thank you. I take everything into consideration. Like, if you're going to, if you leave some comps there, I'm like, oh, that's really nice of you. Thank you. Do
you have comps before you step in the house, or do you do it after?
It depends. Like, I run comps, and this is just my technique. If I'm going to Tacoma, I'm running comps before I go out.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to go back twice. But if it's someplace close, I'm definitely going to do the inspection first, because then, of course, and that's ideal. I'd love it if it's right up the street. I can go do the inspection, and then I know what I'm dealing with, because I know what kind of conditions I'm dealing with, and if there's any surprises. There are a lot of surprises.
Actually, here's a question. So what I've always taught is that the most important appraisals are going to be similar features as far as bedrooms, square footage, and location. That's going to be the driving force. If all things considered the same, two houses next door are on par of everything, same bedroom, same square footage, yard, everything, except for one's updated and one's, maybe 20 years non-updated. How much value do you add to that? Is that a big add value? Because we always get asked, should we remodel our kitchen? And my answer always is, you're not going to double your money. So no.
Right. Yeah. And you're never going to get dollar for dollar, because if somebody puts, 50,000 into the kitchen, they're not going to get 50,000. They may get 20,000, but it just depends on how much. I'm going to look and see what kind of a quality it is of an upgrade or a remodel. So it's so subjective, though, really. I mean, when I look at those, I have the definitions of the C1, C2, C3, C4. I've got those definitions right there. So those are my guidelines. But I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to see, is it granite? Is it, Formica, which they don't do anymore, but I'm going to take a look and see what you've got. So it's totally subjective though. I have to tell you, and so are views and that kind of stuff. But I would like, the biggest thing that I'm going to look at is square footage, and then more so than bedroom count. I'm going to look at square footage, bathroom count, and condition. View is going to be a big one. And there's no exact adjustment that I make, and there's no exact formula that I would use for comping out a subject property. And you guys do CMA, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like sometimes if I'm over here in Ballard, I may go 5 miles out. I might go into Fremont and Blue Ridge, because I know that these are the similar kind of, I can stretch it a little bit because I'm going to go a little further out in order to get a same condition house, or let's say a square footage. So it's a whole like kind of massaging, as I look at the comps, I'm looking at what's important. So there's no set, like I'm not going to go 2 miles out. I'm not going to go 1 mile out. I start 1 mile.
Yeah.
Obviously I start by putting a wide range on square footage, but again, and now you guys, how about this new ANSI measuring technique that we have to use now? You wouldn't believe what this has done to the appraisers. It's awful. Because now we have to go now. Okay. So before, first floor was always front door, first floor. Yeah. That doesn't count anymore. Now first floor can be below that. And it just depends, like first floor now, it could be basement. So now my bedroom count is all askew because my comps don't match that anymore. So now I've got to do a whole bunch of talking. I've got to do a whole bunch of typing to justify why I'm not bracketing a bedroom count above grade and below grade now. It's really screwed us up.
Who are you talking to? The underwriters? Who
yeah.
They're the ones. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and
you have to basically justify to them, because you're like the bank's you're like the bank's inspector, essentially, right? So
right.
My question is like location versus time, or like, you know what I mean? Like to get the right number, would you stay within location and then go out in time, or would you
that's a good question.
That's a very good question, because it's different.
Yeah.
Because I like, sometimes that location is just so the most important thing, and I'd rather go time, and I'd rather make a time adjustment.
Okay.
Sometimes
so it depends on that. Okay.
It just depends.
I had a weird one that was like they couldn't find the right property. It was a smaller house, about 1,400 square feet, but it had a mother-in-law detached, like owned 650 square foot home, right? So, but it was in Woodinville on 1 acre. They went out to Everett to find comps. I'm like, no.
That's not like
Everett and Woodinville are way different. So I had to contest it, and it was just a nightmare, right? But that's why I feel like, each panel of appraisers is important. Like it really depends on the lender, right? Because they have some of the most experienced and, just expert appraisers, right? I mean,
yes. And the underwriters are seasoned, and they look at so many appraisals every day and critique everything. And so, like I wouldn't go to Everett to compare against a Woodinville, because I would rather go out in time, or I'd rather make more adjustments for, let's say, the outbuilding, or the dadoos, or whatever I've got. I'd rather make adjustments in that way than go to a completely different. We're allowed to actually use similar locations. So like my first search would be obviously a half a mile away, and I would try to get the same square footage with the same amenities, or same view, or whatever else. but then I would go ahead and go to, a mile, then I'd go 2 miles, but I'm allowed to go like Blue Ridge, and I'd be allowed to go Finney, even though it's more than 5 miles away, because they're similar neighborhoods.
Got it.
So I'm
Okay,
allowed
so
to go.
that being said, maybe like Snohomish, find something in Snohomish that is comparable, even though that's probably a bit stretch, right? They're kind of similar, Snohomish,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
so you find
like,
a similar city
mm-hmm.
with amenities that are kind of like if it goes out in radius.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But the underwriter's still going to come after me, because they're going to go, okay, that's 20 miles away. You can't, and I'm
right.
going to have to do a lot of explaining.
You'd rather not. Okay.
I'm going to describe the neighborhoods and say, that's why it gets really difficult is like when you're out on the islands. So, the difference in, the Bainbridge and Bremerton and all those different islands out there, I would it's hard because I want to go waterfront. Let's say I've got a waterfront property. I want to go I'm always going to go waterfront against waterfront if I can, because I hate to adjust 100,000 and I hate to start doing linear feet and all of that, try to figure out all that. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Like, I don't want to think that hard. I'd rather go and make, find a similar location on waterfront, different island, 20, 30 miles away, but, same type of island situation. And then that brings you into like, what type of water? Because here's another one. Like if you're on lakefront property, if it's a no motor versus motor lake, there's difference in like the bigger lakes and that kind of stuff too. So
motor is better, higher value for motor?
It depends. Okay, now here we're back because some people would love to be able to have their boats right in front of them, and some people would rather just have rowboats and nice and quiet. And there's another thing: are you looking at sunrise or sunset? I can adjust for that.
What? Oh my gosh!
Like, what side of the lake are you on?
So the orientation of the house does matter for value. I mean, you see some of the cultures that we service, right? They want certain facing homes,
right?
Because it's a religious thing or whatever, so that's very interesting.
Because I'm a sunrise person. I like to see the sunrise. I'm going to go on that side of the lake probably, and I'm going to find that beneficial to me. So that's a beneficial,
So it's subjective on what the buyer wants, really. I mean, and you could argue into the sunrise is a part of it, and you could argue into that value. Are you trying to find the value no matter what, right? I mean, that's kind of the objective. Or
well, I'm not going to ever say that out loud,
right? Not recorded.
But I mean, I'm not, and you know what I got to tell you guys, I am not here to kill your deal. This is like, I am the good guy. We're all in this together, and I'm also not gonna, I can't look the other way. Like also there's there's toilets that are not installed. And you know what? I'd rather give you a cost to cure than to kill your deal on a bathroom count or something. Because sometimes I get places and I'm like, okay, they haven't installed, they didn't say it. Okay, nobody told me. I get there. Let's say I get out to Tacoma. They said they had a 3-bedroom or bathroom. And then all of a sudden, the bathroom's not put together. The tub's not installed. Nothing's, it's not plumbed yet. I'm like, great. I'd rather do a cost to cure for you and get it handled than to not, let's say count that bathroom or.
So in that case, you would do like a prior to close conditions, like put the bathroom there, and then
I can do it either way, because I can do like a hypothetical or an extraordinary assumption. So easy for me to say, but I could, if I do a cost to cure, you actually don't have to finish it before the loan is closed.
Oh, wow.
So I could come in there and I can estimate based on my experience, it would probably cost about, anywhere from $7,000 to $12,000 to finish that bathroom, to install the stuff, put in the baseboards, put in the floors. I could go ahead and itemize that out for you, which is a lot of work for me because I have to think about this, and then, and it's a lot. And sometimes I have to contact builders or, Home Depot to find out how much the stuff would cost. But I can do a cost to cure it. I can put that in the report, and then I can adjust for it, let's say. And I can say, for me, I usually go a little light. I'm not real heavy on that stuff. And that usually can, it can usually close without having that stuff finished.
Cool.
Depends on the lender.
Awesome.
I have a question about a possible appraisal coming up. They took the second bedroom that had windows, but when they redid the roof, they took the windows out and put like a wall there. But the wall is exposed, like it's not painted or primed or anything like that. Would that be something that on a conventional loan that it would be called out, like that has to be finished?
I don't think so. I would do it. It doesn't seem like it's more of an aesthetic thing, correct? It's the paint and
Yes.
And I'm again, like when I go out, I'm like, I am so not gonna be too critical of aesthetic things, because I know that this person's going to finish this stuff, or I know that, a good guess, stuff's going to get handled.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Have you guys ever seen an appraisal report? I got one that she sent. I can pop up real quick. Not to cut off questions. We can keep doing questions, but I'll just share my screen at the same time because
I think Terry had a question in the chat.
He's got a question that I really am interested in the chat.
I can do it after.
Oh, go ahead, Terry. What's the question?
How
are you handling time in regards to the recently shifted market? Do you mean like time on market?
With comps. So if you're not finding anything I imagine you're doing like 90 days ideally on time right now to see what current, values are at. But, I think I've had some cases where I'm not finding any comps or enough comps. So I'm going back further. But obviously like sold price or, for the same kind of properties are like way higher, June and before, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and this, this happens now we're in a fluctuating market where we see this decline. So, so you get a little bit of leeway here because the closed sales are going to be a little bit higher maybe than what's coming up now, because obviously it's declining. I do a time adjustment, which is, taking I run an MC report and see where I'm going as far as the market. And then I divide the amount of months into the year and figure out what that percentage is. And then I can do an adjustment for that.
Adjustment, right. There's a way to do that adjustment.
There is.
Analytically.
There's a way to calculate the adjustment.
Okay. All right.
I think when you guys see this report too, not to digress, but you'll see that there's a huge difference between a real appraisal and a broker's opinion. Not that what we do isn't important. Not that what we do isn't important, but when you see the link, for the average person, I bet a report would take, with not even including the field work, 3 to 4 hours for a report. Wouldn't you think, Shannon?
Yeah. And that's why, and it's like, when I said I got into appraising, I thought, I wrote the check after the lady being there for 15 minutes, but that's not all that it takes. There's all the research and getting dialed in, and then, adjusting and reconciling all of the stuff that I've just got done. I have to make sure, because USPAP is the who regulates the appraisers are the laws. USPAP is who we answer to. And it's, we need to make sure that we, are following all the laws as far as everything that we do. I'm just taking a look at this appraisal here. This is, okay. We can go ahead and.
You want me to scroll down or?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about these?
So this is a report.
Yeah. So neighborhood characteristics.
Oh,
The built up.
That's speculative.
I'm going to scroll down, like right here.
Yeah, those are all, if you can explain the percentages here. So built up 75%. So is that mean the development of the neighborhood itself is built up 75% or more?
yes. And you know what? There's actually, there's sites that I can go on to find out this information.
Okay. Yeah.
So I used to just say, oh, it's, I used to just wing it, but now I actually have sites that I can find out the exact what's really going on in the neighborhoods. And I've been called out on this by, like by the underwriters.
Oh, by the underwriter.
Oh,
well, why are you called out? Because is it better to be more built up and stable, or growing rapid, or what is that subjective, or?
It's just that I just need to have that information in there, because I used to just put a couple of words in there just saying, yeah, it's built at 75%. Now they want to know why and with what, and they want to know, what percentage of churches are in the neighborhood, like things like schools, churches, stores. I'm just like, really? There's a lot that they're asking me for, and constantly, because I'm the supervisor of these 5 trainees and appraisers. I need to be able to to answer these questions and to be able to back them up and to be able to show them how to go ahead and look up some of this stuff.
Let's just say we're well beyond 15 minutes at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at this detail, just like that they have to do, like marketing conditions. They have to write out, like, what if you had to do this for a CMA?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why we got to stay out of their way and try to make their job as easy as possible.
Well, yeah. And is this all kind of recent, like stuff that you had? Because it sounds like it's all kind of, some of this stuff is new.
Well, it's I'm like anybody else. Like I'm trying not to overstate or be an expert. I'm not an expert at like let's say the neighborhood, but because every time I have a situation with an underwriter or with a bank, here I go again. I need to be able to get better at this stuff, and then go ahead and make sure that I fill in all of the blanks and make sure that I answer all of the questions thoroughly, because that's what they want. And so I just want to have the least amount of kickbacks on my appraisals.
Yeah, because I can read some of this neighborhood description. So just talking about the schools, proximity to freeways. So this does kind of support values, I think, because, people want this stuff, right? So that makes sense. I'm just reading over it, talking out loud. Does anybody else have questions? I find this extremely fascinating because, well, what I want to understand is how I, obviously get my, I've had to contest appraisals in the past, right? Feel I wasn't very effective. So maybe this will help me to be effective in my contesting of the appraisals, right? To see what you guys are seeing and looking at is what I really want to understand.
Is it possible? Is this something I could forward out, Shannon?
Yeah, I took the address off there. I think it's okay. I mean,
sounds good. So yeah.
And you guys,
they have
I have to be careful of the intended users. This is a really huge thing for.
Okay, we won't. We'll take a look at it. It's fine. Yeah. If there's anything gray, we don't want to compromise anybody. We're all in this for a career, not for a short time. So.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah.
Above grade, below grade. Why? I had that as an issue on one of my appraisals. So I noted that. What is the value? Why is the value so different? Because it's below grade. Obviously, it's in a basement or whatever, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. To me, when I adjust for above and below, I don't go heavy on that. Sometimes it's only $5 per square foot above and below. And so it's one of those things that they get hung up on, but it's not a big deal. And I like a daylight basement to me is the same as above.
Yeah.
If I can see out that window,
yeah.
You know,
This was a 3-floor, 2015 built, and the third floor had its own guest suite. It was amazing, actually, but that was, the lower floor, but that was all below grade. And so they it was 970 and we offered 1.05, right? So they, and the thing is that neighborhood, there was one that I was really hoping they would use, but there was not enough below grade. Okay. So 3 months later, the same footprint layout, 2 doors down, sold for 1.5.
Oh.
So that's all appraiser, right? I mean, that is all the subjective view.
Yeah. And here's the, we don't have to bracket below grade. So that's one thing. If you said that they didn't like that there wasn't the below grade,
right?
I'd be surprised by that because that is not one of the criterias.
Interesting.
Above grade is the only criteria, but everything has changed now because this new measuring standard that we have, it's made my life really difficult. And when I took the class on it, you should have saw like everybody piping in, all the appraisers and all their comments. People were basically saying, I quit. Good thing I'm retiring. Goodbye. That kind of stuff. Because to sit here and try to explain all of this now and for all of my comps not to match up anymore. It used to be a beautiful thing. And then now it's like, okay, now we're going to be called out on our bedroom below and above and below.
Yeah. And Chris, one thing to keep in mind, you do a lot of business. And so like appraiser, like any industry, some are going to be good, some aren't. We're talking to somebody here that's a seasoned vet of 20 years experience. I mean, I literally had an appraiser call out a cedar fence because it wasn't stained. That wasn't an appraisal issue. That was an appraiser issue. And so we have to understand sometimes there's just people that are also not good at their job, and you may have run into that. So you do enough business, you're going to have something that doesn't go great. You do quite a bit of business. So that's a pat on your back.
Well, and I have to say too, because Chris said something about like he's like wanted to appeal or kind of just say, hey, the reconsideration of value. I actually don't get. I don't want to do any more work on an appraisal. I've turned it in. I've got paid. I don't want to look at the value again. I don't want to rerun comps. I don't want to do any of that, obviously. But I don't, and I do get a little defensive, like, oh, what did I do wrong? They're calling me out on it. But I can tell you that I do, I will look at an appraisal again. I will review it again, make sure that I did everything right. And, and sometimes I don't blame you for doing it. There's been times when, I've felt like, oh gosh, I guess I could have gave him a little bit more or something, but.
Well, I've never contested one of yours, Shannon. So.
Thank you very much. Have you gotten one of them? So have we done work for you?
Yeah, actually, I don't think you have. I've not. It's funny. You don't ever really know the appraiser unless there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good when you don't know your appraiser, I suppose. You're right. That's cool. So you were talking about this new measuring system. How long ago did it take place? What was the biggest change in how we as agents should approach comp in our own places?
Yeah, well, it started in April of this year. And I think the standard is, I went ahead and did this for you. Let's see. Calculation of square footage made by using exterior dimension. Oh, they want us to do exterior now instead of interior to make sure. Well, we always do that anyway, because that's easier to measure. But it's just, they've made it, the reason why they did it is because they wanted to make it universal and we're all doing the exact same type of measuring, because you could have 3 different appraisers and end up with 3 different square footage, the calculations on a home. But let's see if they have finished areas adjacent opening the floor. Above and below grade finished areas. The above grade finished square footage of a house is the sum of the finished areas on levels that are entirely above grade. The below grade finished square footage of a house is the sum of the finished areas on levels that are wholly or partly below grade. Ceiling height. Oh, here's one for you. The ceiling height now. I just get really upset about it because it's really hard to do now. Because now when you have a attic, and it used to be wherever kind of, we would all be measuring differently. And see, this is why they wanted it to be standardized. I was trained 4 feet. I could give them square footage if it's 4 feet, at least 4 feet. I'm giving them everything. Well, now they say it has to be 7 feet. So now sometimes on an attic, that could be just a teeny tiny strip through the middle of the room. Let's say if it's a bedroom upstairs, it could be a tiny, like only 3 feet that is actually 7 feet high.
Oh, like your half stories?
You're talking about like those old dormer houses.
Yeah, dormer houses with the half stories. Yeah.
Yes. So now when I do a report, I actually have to sketch that little 7 foot strip down the middle that could be only 3 feet wide. And then I also make kind of an extra little adjustment at the bottom of the grid. That's the extra part of the room that's on either side of that strip, which could be another 3 feet or 4 feet on the other side of that strip down the middle. Now I have to do an adjustment, put that in the grid separately. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah.
Pain. I know.
How do you make it more difficult?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then now, not only that, none of my comps state that within their square footage in county records. So now I'm like, where do I put that? It's really complicated.
You know what? We had a Whidbey Island home with the half-story dormer thing, and the square footage didn't match up with public records. Remember that, Ash? So, and it was like 3 different sources, all different square footage. Luckily, the appraisal wasn't a problem or anything on that, but that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now I have to separate that stuff that's just like only 6 feet. I have to separate that out, put it on a different part in the grid, and then somehow talk about it, and then make it so that it doesn't look like an across the board adjustment. I cannot make an across the board adjustment or I get called out on. I get called out on just something as small as a fireplace. They will make me go 5 miles out just to find that second fireplace if I'm making an across the board adjustment for a fireplace.
That's so ridiculous.
Wow.
I know.
Good thing we've had so much inventory and there's a lot of comps out there.
Yeah. That's incredible, and it gives us perspective, I feel like, as real estate agents. Like, this is not easy to do, so.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
one thing I think that learning about kind of the pressures you guys are under that us as agents can keep in mind is we're always on tight timelines, but like an appraiser needs the time to do the stuff, and so we have to explain to our clients that, the appraisal piece, especially if we're listing it and our clients are waiting, we need to let them know that, the bank's got their time to do their due diligence. And, usually what do you allow yourself 1 to 2 weeks, right?
Oh, no, I'm on it. Once I get an appraisal, no, thank you though, Joe. That would be really nice if we had that kind of time. Once I get a sign from an AMC, I am so on it. And even if I was backed up, I'm not any more than, 5 to 7 days. But the lag time is sometimes that AMC, because what they're doing is they're out soliciting. They're, sometimes my business gets the same offer for the same property to me through 2 different AMCs. They're shopping us too.
They're shopping your own appraisers, that
Yeah.
appraisal management company.
They don't realize that it's my company over here at like, the AMC, that's Class Appraisal. Okay. And that's one of my, one of my trainees does a lot of work for Class. Well, over here, I've got Nationwide, and that's one of my company.
Right.
And they're shopping me through 2 different AMCs.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Do you get to call them out? Like, hey.
Guess what? I've lost the bid to myself before.
My God.
See, I wish we had that problem. I lost the client to myself,
I know. And because I went like $25 less on the price. But so God, and I can't tell you, man, I've gone out to appraisals before. And the lady tells me that she's just paid $800. Like I would never talk about how much I'm getting paid, what my fee is. But the lady says to me on the inspection, she says, "Oh, I'm paying $800 for this," and they were giving me $290.
Oh my God!
And I was like, "Oh,
so
they're making all, yeah."
Is that how they get? Is that how they get paid?
Yes.
The AMC. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So they're shopping me, trying to get my lowest rate. So, and before I was an appraiser, I was a car salesperson. So I thought I got out of that, but now
yeah, right.
Trying to, they're trying to get a better, lower price, looking up invoice on that car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He real quick, I know that I don't want to run out of time, and I know we've had a lot of good questions. We've asked some complex stuff that will probably never really be a part of our day to day. So if we were to step back a couple of steps, and a lot of us are in our first couple of years of this business, what should we keep in mind when we're looking at a home, either on a buy side or a list side? What's gonna get called out so we can prepare people for it? Like, what are must be's? I know things like paint and safety. And so let's talk FHA, because we have a lot of FHA buyers.
Okay. Don't you love FHA? So right off the bat, I'm I'm required to do, let's see, I guess you don't need to know that information. What we're looking at is double strapped water heater. We're looking at CO meters. We're looking at like paint, like you said. We're looking at stair height.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be the proper, the
code,
the flow of, and I'm only going to catch it if I kind of feel like, oh, these stairs are too short. I'm looking at handrails for sure. Okay. Make sure that you have a handrail. If it's any more than 3 feet, I need a handrail for sure. And you know what? I've had people just take a piece of pine wood and put it, and stick it on the side of the wall real quick, and it's worked. It's fine as long as it's there.
What about, is that the same for conventional? We're just talking FHA.
Well, yeah, you know what? That could come into play. It depends on your appraiser, probably.
I did have 2 of those this year, which were handrail and railings.
Yes.
Terry, remember Allison's house had that. This was a exterior railing on both sides too. But yeah. So anyway, okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. And then we're looking at anything safety, right? Any kind of holes in the deck or any of that kind of stuff.
Softwood. Yeah. Okay.
But
one thing I want to clue in on that, what you said, because as agents, we're emotional and we're ridiculous sometimes. So we get this appraisal call out and we freak out. But what you said is they even put a piece of pine wood on there. So we need to approach these with calmness, because I'll tell you, like, I remember the first one I got called out was for flaking paint, and I thought the whole house had to be repainted. It was the simplest fix ever. Scrape off what was peeling and just cover that portion. So again, I love that you pointed that out, that sometimes it's a simple solution. So it's not always the sky is falling.
Right. And, and I'm super cool because, like, if I came out there and that railing wasn't fixed, and I would perhaps say to the borrower, that's, this is going to be called out. Would you be inclined to fix this in the next couple of days and take a picture and send it to me? I'm not going to, I'm going to take that picture, put it in my report and, be done. If I can see that it's done, I'm good. I'm super cool about that. But, but yeah, the double strapped is a big deal. We have to be able to take pictures of the attic and the crawl space.
Okay.
You need to have vapor barrier and insulation. And basically that's about it.
Awesome.
It's not too much. Flush the toilets, hot water. The water needs to be running. You need to have hot water when I check those.
Oh, and you have to have a place to cook, right? A cook source.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Vented. Stoves.
So don't remove that new stove for a new listing.
Yeah.
Seen that done.
So, and then quality of construction and condition, I see a rating given. Is that pretty subjective, or is there's probably some industry standards, I imagine, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think on this report, there's a definitions of quality and condition.
Oh, cool.
So if and it actually lists out what that is.
It's on this
report. So there are standards for that.
Oh, cool.
It should be maybe the last picture, the last page, or the second to the last page.
Oh,
okay. Here's the definitions.
Okay.
Descriptions. This is great because we actually use this too. If you ever, come across like, what the heck is that? There's the definitions. Go one more page and see if they have the C1, C2, C3.
Down. I think it's down.
Right here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was given a Q3. Dwellings with this quality rating are residents of higher quality built from individual or readily available designer plans and above standard residential tract developments or on an individual's property ownership. Okay. So it's a good middle of the road. Essentially.
Yeah. And
okay.
Yeah.
So most things are going to be that, because I look at Q1, that's for like it's an odd property.
So Q1s it looks like they're unique though, structures. Yeah. Those are the best rating?
Yes, and those are probably your house in Medina.
Right.
Your custom built homes, the really high quality. That's what I always kind of judge the Q1, Q2.
Here's your
is your really nice home that's been upgraded. And
when you have like a landscape architect design stuff, you probably give some value for that, or no?
A little bit.
So you don't get any of that money back when you spend it, because it's expensive. Landscaping, 30, 40 grand sometimes on jobs. Yeah.
And it's a little bit sad in the way that, like, because if I was to look at, like, there's a pond and a fountain and that kind of stuff, I'm not going to give it a lot. I've got gazebos, I've got things like that. And sometimes I'll go ahead and put that on one line on the grid at the bottom there. I've got gazebos, hot tubs, fountains, ponds, that kind of stuff, just exterior stuff that I can go anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. And then I will talk about it in the comment addendum.
Cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You guys have so much data in these reports. It's
really awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and the adjustment. Okay. So this is a weird time for you guys too, because you're adjusting down now.
It is a really weird time, and we almost hate to say it on the report. We hate to say it. It's a declining market. I almost just like to say it's stable no matter what, because, again, here I am. I'm here to help. I'm not here to, make it bad, but I am the eyes and the ears of the bank. So I need to go out and represent the bank properly,
So you're there to help, but you're also there to help kind of keep us honest, keep the industry honest.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I'm kind of the middleman in here, so it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Then they have to sign their report. Look at that.
What?
You have to actually sign your report too.
I'm out on a limb.
Officially taking responsibility.
Yeah. What other questions do we have for her? Anything that, we're coming up on an hour now. So is there any other questions that people have? You want me to keep the report open or stop my share?
I have a question about jumbos because you have to do, from what I understand, a desktop appraisal. Is that you or is that an individual? Like, because there's the physical appraisal and then there's a desktop one, right?
I don't know, but I do a lot of desktop ones, but I suppose I'm doing the secondary desktop for somebody else because I do review reports. I do field reviews. I also do desk reviews, which would be like I run the comps and I act as if I'm doing the whole appraisal again.
But you're not actually doing the appraisal. You're just, so that's what it is. Okay. So they take somebody who's removed from it entirely to just do the desktop part. Okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of like now I'm the reviewer. So now I'm the underwriter. So it's another set of eyes. Sometimes they have 2 or 3, depending, on the amount of money that they're borrowing. Sometimes, it depends on the bank, the institution, who it is, if they'll do a field review or not, and if they'll do a desktop on as an addition.
Got it. Cool.
Awesome. It's a lot. But again, I just want to say to you guys, we love you. We love the agents. We want to work with you. We just, we thank you when, just so many. Oh, and thank you for answering our questions when we have questions about the sales conditions, because a lot of times we'll have to call back on the comps and say, hey, what happened here on this comp? Like one of my comps that I'm using, why did this sell for so much more or so much less? Can you tell me about the conditions of the sale? And I appreciate when you pick up on that other end, because, I need to be able to explain that in my report, why this sold for so much less and it's next door, because sometimes it does. And it's like, I need to know, was that a duress sale? Did the people just need to move out of town really fast? Is that why it's, $20,000, $30,000 less? It happens.
Yeah. Did they
Was there something condition wise or something that we seen?
And guess what? I can put that in the report. I could put it in the grid if I needed to. This was under this condition here, and I can put it in the grid if I needed to.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point that, we all as professionals need to work with each other because we all have the same outcome. And when we talk about negotiation strategies, that's the first thing I always try to teach is that, it's not a us against them. It's we all have the same outcome desires. How do we get there? And it's by working together and creating professional relationships. And so